you listen to my colleagues, and one of the complaints that they have is the sentencing guidelines deviate from, and that's been legislated. So I would like to see if we could get the legislature to change that so they have more discretion, because the facts of each case are different. First-time offenders for something, I don't even know what they're be charged and put off to jail for a lengthy period of time is not going to help anybody. You need to basically say, given the facts of this case, I would deviate from these guidelines, and I don't have to prove why. So that's the one thing that I know that needs to be fixed.
I am Maxine Cheeseman. I have not practiced in criminal court, and I would not even, utter a guess at what needs to be fixed. I do know that a lot of it really is up to the legislature, and there are very limited things we can really talk about in terms of the laws or in terms of actually changing the whole process. It's a very difficult line that we have to be careful of.
Hi, I'm Jessica Tate again. I have not practiced in criminal court, and I only know what I've seen on show Night Court from a very long time ago. But I do also agree that we do need some changes, and it's up to the legislature. Unfortunately, attorneys and judges alike, we really don't have the power to do anything about it, whether we like it or not. But on the administrative side, something that I've heard, and again, I haven't personally practiced in the criminal court, but I've heard that the way the criminal court is set up is all of the attorneys have to go in at the same time for all of the defendants. So there are public defenders in there, and there are private attorneys in there. And I think what they do is they take all the private attorneys first, and they leave a bunch of the public defenders just sitting there waiting. And it could be hours, it could be a long time. And I think that my suggestion would be if the court administration could stagger the time so that the attorneys didn't have to sit there waiting. Even if they're public defenders, that's taxpayers' money. I think they take the private attorneys first because the defendants are paying them. So I understand why, but I think that's a better way would be to stagger it so that nobody's time is wasted.
Next question. Please tell us, what was the most significant case you have ever tried? What was your role, and why is it significant to you?
I think the most significant case I tried was a case involving the custody of 3 young children, in which the mother sought to exclude the father from the children's lives. And the basis of the exclusion, of all things, was because the father at the time was not a naturalized citizen of the United States. And she had a fear, notwithstanding that he had been in the United States since the age of 18 and was now 43 years of age and had never left the United States, that he would take the children and flee the United States. She wanted sole parental responsibility. She didn't really want him to have any time sharing, despite the fact that he had solely contributed to support, and she did want him to continue to support the children solely and keep her in the lifestyle to which she was accustomed, but she didn't value at all the relationship that the children had with the other parent. And by the way, it wouldn't have mattered if I represented the woman or the man in that case. The fact is that 99% of the time, both parents bring to the table, and this is why the case is important, both parents bring to the table valuable traditions, habits, educations, gifts that the other parent doesn't have, and together they make a wonderful team for the children. And so that's why it's a remarkable case, because you gave the children the best of what both of them had, instead of perhaps what only one of them had.
I'm talking about the cases that I tried when I was in private practice. I thought all of them were significant because they had significant ramifications either for a doctor or a hospital, not only from a monetary standpoint, but reputation-wise and otherwise. The one that comes to mind the most, though, and I'll tell you why it comes to mind the most, is the last case I tried. It was a 14-week medical malpractice trial that I had to conduct while I was running my first campaign. And so it was very difficult to go home at night and work on the campaign and work on the case. But it was significant in the end because the jurors, who were very attentive, took copious notes, deliberated for, I think it was almost 5 days, and they came up with a hung jury, so the case had to be retried again. Yeah, so that's why it was significant too.
So many cases also come to mind, but I think the one that probably has the greatest impact on me was one representing an 88-year-old lady who was about to lose her home in foreclosure. She was actually a legal aid client, so it was, I took over the client from legal aid. I'm like, just give me the client, just give me the client. I just needed to have her. And they had tried everything, trying to get her, you know, in a situation where she could save her home. And we had mediation, we had 2 mediations and just could not budge the bank. And finally, we went on the TV, we got a lot of publicity, we got some money, not enough. And I came up with an idea of, you know, sometimes you just have to do what it takes. So I actually emailed Brian Monahan, I can never remember, Monahan, who is the CEO of Bank of America, and told him this is ridiculous, we need a reverse mortgage, and they would have to give her a short payoff. They reduced the mortgage from $34,000, this is a lady, it wasn't much, $34,000 down to $14,000. And she's now able to stay in her home, and I was so happy about that. Now we have a great relationship, even better, because now she has mango trees and I get mango. I also got a legal aid, in 2012 I got a legal aid award for that case. And that meant a lot to me because it was also recognition for the pro bono work that I do.
I can't think of any cases that I've handled that were not significant, but the one that stands out in my mind was the first trial, one of my first trials, and it was a family law case. It was a divorce situation. I was representing the husband, father, and the mother had severe mental illness, and she had attempted suicide a few times and had left notes where the children could see them, and she failed in her attempts, obviously, so the children woke up and found their mother suffering. And it was very hard, it was very disturbing, but I was able to accomplish the right thing for the children and make sure that the father was the primary caretaker. Another one that sticks out in my mind, while I was in college, so I was not an attorney and I can't take credit for doing the trial, although I did participate with the big jury trial that was on court TV and my father was the attorney. It had to do with an organ donor case, and our clients, they were Haitian, and a hospital that took care of these clients after they were in a very, very bad car accident. The mother and the minor child were taken to separate hospitals. The hospital where the minor child was kept forged the mother's name to donate the child's organs. They spoke to the mother on the phone at the other hospital, but they were speaking to her in English, and she did not understand English. She only spoke Creole. So that always stands out in my mind as a very significant case. We won. We made the family whole in terms of getting them a jury award. I helped in the trial. I was behind the scenes preparing everything and working through the depositions, but it was really my father that did that, and that will always stand out in my mind. And those clients, they're wonderful people, and we did what we could for them, but knowing in a situation like that, again, like I said, you cannot really make somebody whole when they lose a family member. So it was a sad case, and it's certainly very significant and important. And to this day, I will not put organ donor on my driver's license, just because I want everybody to know that knows me. My family knows, certainly, if I'm in that condition where I cannot live, then yes, donate my organs, but I don't want anybody to take advantage and cut my life short if it doesn't need to.
For the past 25 years, every case that I tried on my own. The most significant cases were the ones that I didn't have to try. But the case was about cases you tried. But keep in mind, the cases I didn't have to try, where I helped somebody who was legally blind, who was not accommodated in the workplace. The person who had a heart attack, who lost their job, and I was able to get them their justice without having to go in the courtroom. But the most significant trial that I had was a 2-week trial involving 3 plaintiffs, 2 of whom were terminated from the company, and the third was the widow of one of the former employees. an employee with 25 years of experience who was terminated, and we maintained because of his age. And approximately a month later, he took his life, committed suicide. His widow, Laverne, came in to see me after being turned down by a number of different attorneys, because every attorney who's tried cases knows the challenges of filing a case successfully, an employment case, on behalf of someone who's no longer with us. I took the case on, shepherded it through the administrative process, filed a lawsuit, went up against 4 different law firms, and ultimately, in a 2-week trial, after putting on the doctor who actually had treated, the deceased a week before he shot himself, we got verdicts for each of those plaintiffs. And that was the most significant thing to me, because I was dealing with the widow and the family of the deceased.
Trial experience, but let's really get into numbers at this point. And if the numbers aren't there, explain to us what other experience you may have.
Between private practice and being in the civil division, which is where the jury trials would be tried, I've done over 115 trials, but that's only because I can only count that many. I was trying to keep a record, and we weren't very good about it, but I know that there's 115 trials that are attributed to me that are jury trials. Non-jury trials I've been doing in the family division, I do in the probate division, and you did them in the civil division also. And because I'm in the foreclosure division, I can't keep up the count, but I have to say it's probably over 1,000, if not more than 1,000, and closer to 2,000, because we are doing these foreclosure cases very quickly. And in family, the cases are only usually a day or so. Sometimes it's a 5-day case, but that's rare. So I've got lots of experience doing trials and presiding over trials.
In family law usually ends up in a final trial, which is, it's a bench trial before the judge. So I've done quite a few. I don't know how many, but it's on the public record, so you can always check. But I've done non-jury trials in family law. I've done non-jury trials in foreclosure cases, in probate. We've also, I told you I did have one adversarial trial. I've also done adversarial trials in bankruptcy court, but they never actually got to a complete trial before the judge. We just had a lot of administrative hearings in front of the judge, bench hearings. I also did one jury trial on a real estate matter, and that was in the civil division in state court. But majority of the time, you try to settle the cases, and you do have a lot of, trials, or not trials, but you have a lot of hearings with judges on a routine basis, and you have a lot of mediation, and there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the courtroom. Most of the time when you're in criminal, that's when you'd have done most of the cases end up in some kind of trial. That's not been my area of practice. It's been mostly in civil, probate, foreclosure, and real estate. So I've had some experience in all these different areas. I've also had administrative hearings that went on for 5 days, actually 6 days. So I've done that. A lot of my employment law cases I've worked in federal court, and also with administrative court, doing a lot of employment cases there as well.